everybody, this is Carla, and today I'm really excited because I just came home from watching the brand new Fox Marvel Universe movie, Deadpool, which is definitely for sure one of my most anticipated movies of the year, and I just really freaking loved it. Okay, as usual, whenever there's a movie that I'm really excited about, I start reading reviews really early. Like, as soon as the reviews start coming out, I start reading everything I can about those, and Deadpool is no exception. So for the last week or so, I've been kind of reading everything that everybody has been saying, and the reception for this movie has been so overwhelmingly positive that I was almost starting to think that maybe I was setting my expectations up too high. And I'm very glad to say that that could not be farther away from the truth. This movie is fantastic, you guys. It's fantastic. First of all, it's hilarious, as it should be, because Deadpool is a very special kind of character, not just in the Marvel universe, but anywhere really. Like, he's particular. He's very particular. He's funny. He's sarcastic. His moral code is like really freaking bent. He's just plain old crazy. He's schizophrenic crazy, like, seriously. And he breaks the fourth wall. He knows he's in a comic book, so he was going to be a very particular type of character from the get-go. So it's one thing where I believe people have to realize that this is a movie aimed at a certain type of humor, but the reviews kind of made me see that that particular brand of humor is actually more widespread than I thought it was, because most of the people that I've read, whose reviews I have read or watched, have loved this movie unapologetically, and I can't blame them. It's really a great movie. This is... Okay, I will be sincere, okay? I have this thing where I'm a huge X-Men fan, okay? So anything X-Men, like even the crappy bouts of the movies, I still like. Like, I own X-Men Origins Wolverine on DVD. I own it. I have rewatched that movie voluntarily, and okay, I admit that it was a terrible movie. It was. But it does hold a certain sentimentality in my heart just because it is X-Men. And Deadpool was so mistreated in that movie, man. That was so not... That wasn't even Deadpool. Okay, it wasn't. But if one good thing did come out of that crap pile of a movie, it was that Ryan Reynolds should be Deadpool. He should be Deadpool forever. That is all I can say, and this is one of those things that I heard in pretty much like every other review that I read or watched, is this phrase, like this literal phrase: Ryan Reynolds was born to play this role, was born to play Deadpool. And I have to echo it, because it just, I mean, I know it gets repetitive after you start reading reviews and listening to reviews, but it's true. This is the role Ryan Reynolds was born to play, and most of the fans actually saw that in that travesty of an X-Men movie that was Wolverine. We saw that. That was one of the best parts of that movie, even though the rest of it sucked. It's just, we knew that he was going to be great at it, and we knew that this movie had to happen, and just now to really see it realized and see it done in such a great way, man. I laughed myself silly, okay? It was intense, like, seriously. All of a sudden, laughter would just burst out of me in a truly embarrassing way in the movie theater, because okay, I tend to be loud when I laugh in the movie theater and stuff, but it was really, like, actually embarrassing, because I just couldn't control myself. I couldn't hold it in, you know what I mean? And honestly, I didn't even want to, because everybody was laughing. It was so great. And like I said, there's a particular brand of humor. I wasn't actually sure that I was going to love it as much as I expected everybody else. Like, everybody else seemed to really love the raunchy stuff. I mean, it is an R-rated movie, and it's not one of those R-rated movies where you can just if you take a little kid, you can just like cover their ears for that one moment, or their eyes for that one moment, and then the rest of the movie is fine. No, no, no. This movie earns its rating. Okay, it's not like, oh, it has one too many f-bombs and then that's why. No, it has nothing but f-bombs, pretty much. I mean, the insults are so freaking creative that I want to go watch it again just to like write some of them down. Okay, because they're so great. And I'm not the type of person who necessarily enjoys like raunchy humor. I'm it's not really my thing. Like I don't watch movies like The Hangover, for example. It's not my brand of humor. But somehow in Deadpool, I didn't even mind, because even the raunchiest bits of humor actually had heart within them, and that's what I really loved about this movie, is that it wasn't the most complex story. I mean, it was your basic, origin story. Again, there's this guy, he falls in love with a girl, something happens, he has to go, and then he becomes super powered, and then he goes on a revenge quest to, get himself back, And it's very basic, but it's just the way they do it, the way they wade through everything that makes it new and makes it refreshing. One of the things I was actually worried about after reading other people's reviews is that I knew that it wasn't going to be a linear narrative, so I knew there were flashbacks and stuff, and I heard not a lot of people, but just a couple of people commenting that you had so much humor in most of the movies, like wham, bam, bam, one after the other, that at times when it tried to be serious, like in the actual, origin part, in the past, the flashbacks, it wasn't as interesting. Some people said that. And I was worried that I was going to be one of those people, because in most movies, there are parts where I'm like, okay, it lulled. It has to lull. It can't just be wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, every single scene, right? But I was surprised to see that even the parts that were supposed to be serious, and even the parts that were supposed to be scary, and, the parts that were supposed to be, like, make you like sit there in shock, all the parts that weren't supposed to be funny in and themselves were still really interesting to me. Like, for example, I come out of this movie a big fan of Ed Skrein. Okay, I think he's amazing, and I know a lot of people have said, well, he's not the greatest villain because he was just, evil, stereotypical evil, and we didn't really see much of him. We didn't really see many shades to him. I'm one of those people who like villains who are villains just because they can be. I truly do believe in the appeal of absolute evil. In a way, it's like, okay, you're a terrible person just because you are a terrible person. Okay, I don't need an excuse. I don't need your sob story. I don't need to know that your father abused you or whatever, because there's tons of people out there in the world who have gone through the same things, if not worse, and they were still good people. So I love villains who are just evil. Those are my favorites. Okay, don't make them cartoonish. Sure, you have to be evil, you still have to have a motivation of some sort, but even if it's an evil motivation, I'll take it. And I think Ed Skrein as Ajax, or Francis, I think he was chilling. I mean, why isn't this guy getting more roles? He's so great as an evil freaking villain. And yes, I mean, even from the opening credits, they kind of hinted at this idea that this is the stereotypical British, villain. But he's so good at it. I love it. Like, even those parts where the torture scenes when he was just trying to, he was basically, Deadpool was lying there and Ajax was just talking to him, just trash talking to him, and I thought for sure those at that point I had already finish my popcorn. So I had literally like nothing to do except like keep my hand to my mouth because I had nothing to actually have in my hand. I had eaten my popcorn, and I like by the time that scene ended with Ajax leaving, I realized that I had my hand in front of my mouth for like 3-4 minutes, okay, because I was just entranced by his evilness. It was so good. And scenes like that, like, okay, that one scene where they trash talk each other, like all the scenes with that scrying, even the cancer scenes with Vanessa, because I mean you're introduced to them and they have such a rapport right away, and it's really funny, and they're both so messed up, and then you have the sex montage and you're just laughing along with them, and then the cancer hits and it gets a lot slower all of a sudden. But even those scenes, I mean, I have been saying for 2 years now that Marina Baccarin is the best freaking part of Gotham. Okay, she is the best part of that show, and I love Marina Baccarin. I've loved her since Firefly, and everything she does is so great. She's such a great actress, and she's so refreshing, and she can take a character that you wouldn't normally think much of and just infuse an attitude in her. And I loved all her scenes as Vanessa, all of them. Like I said, even the cancer ones, like she just added a personality to those scenes that I just couldn't look away. Okay, I wasn't laughing at that point, but I was entranced. And you know, Vanessa as a character in any other movie would have been pretty much your stereotypical damsel in distress. I mean, she does get kidnapped, right, by the evil guy in order to work as bait for the superhero. But she made it work, man. She saved herself, basically. I mean, yeah, Deadpool kind of broke the glass so she wouldn't suffocate, but she got out of there herself. I mean, come on. She is badass. And then even though he's saving her life in the end, she's not like all swoony, like, oh, my hero. No, she's like, you're an asshole. You left me, you freaking... Because it has to be said, right? Okay, she can't just forgive him because he just saved her. Come on, it has to take a little bit more than that. And I love that attitude they gave her. Like, she could have been such a weak character in any other superhero movie, and she gave it personality. That was great. I really love her. And all the other supporting characters, TJ Miller as Weasel, was so funny. He was like, I'd go with you, but I don't want to. They are so great. He was fantastic. I loved Al. The whole sequence of scenes with the whole IKEA thing just cracked me up majorly because, as you know, I'm not in the U.S., so I'm watching this movie in English with subtitles in Spanish, and they're just speaking Swedish, like throwing out Swedish words, and then the subtitles kind of say something completely different because they couldn't just like explain the joke within the subtitles, right? So they had to change it, and the subtitles are saying something different, and I'm laughing myself so hard that I'm not even realizing what they're saying. Like, just the whole IKEA running thing. The funniest part of it was that I just couldn't understand the thing. So that was hilarious. His whole relationship with Al was so great. I mean, who would have thought? Who would have thought that this little blind old lady who only gets like half a movie's, not like just a little bit of time, she wasn't on screen that much, but you totally buy that they live together and that they support each other in their own twisted ways. And the hand, I laughed myself silly with that hand. And just, man, even the taxi driver. That was one of the funniest scenes of the movie. The second scene with the taxi driver. Man, they have a way of taking these little jokes and stretching them out and not make them feel contrived, but actually make it feel like the payoff was worth it. Like the TGI Fridays Jacksonville one. I almost died. But I think my favorite part of this movie was actually Colossus. I mean, I love Nick Sonic Teenage Warhead. She was adorable. Brianna Hildebrand is the cutest thing. And I loved just how she was like old, typical teenager. But then at the same time, she kind of saw, you know, the good side of Deadpool in a way. She was like, you're not too bad by the end. So I liked her. But I think Colossus was my favorite part of this movie because Colossus, yes, that's who he is. Like, he, out of the X-Men, he might be like the most idealistic one out of them all. Like, Colossus is seriously a good guy, and very, very rarely does he like deviate from that idealism of his. And he's such a big Boy Scout. It's adorable. I mean, of course they played him more for laughs in this movie, but I could totally see that, you know, at some point, because Colossus is just that good of a guy. He's just that good. And it's funny because in the comics he does get into it with like Wolverine, but at the same time they have that camaraderie, and they have that dichotomy in a way. It's like Wolverine is like totally no feelings, no attachments, just let me live my life by my own moral code type guy, and then Colossus is so straight-laced, and so, you know, you have to do the right thing, you have to be a hero, that sort of thing. But then they're very good friends, and I saw kind of a little bit of that in Deadpool and Colossus, and I loved it. And and Colossus was so stereotypically good that it was so kind of adorable. I think hands down my favorite scene in the entire movie, and probably the one that made me laugh the hardest, was between Deadpool and Colossus when they were fighting on the bridge, and Deadpool kept breaking all the bones in his hands and in his leg, and I was in stitches. Oh my god, I thought I was going to start crying. Those two just were the best part of the movie for me, hands down. And just the jokes, the meta jokes, the whole Wham thing had me in stitches the entire time. I mean, when he started playing, oh my god, I love that. All the pop culture references. He called Agent Smith Jared. I died. I died a little. And just the entire breaking the fourth wall thing was amazing. I think that was one of my favorite jokes of the whole thing. It's like, hey, I'm breaking a wall within a breaking wall. It's like 16 walls. I almost died. Okay, and just the whole idea of him being in the same universe as the X-Men is so fantastic. All the jokes he made about Wolverine Origins, about Green Lantern, about his Sexiest Man Alive cover, just the entire, everything. I mean, like the X-Men timeline, just the idea that Fox gave them a lower budget. I mean, this whole thing was so fantastic. I thought, actually, I walked out of the movie. This isn't something that I necessarily realized during the movie, but now that I'm out of the theater and thinking about it, like going back and looking at it in my head, I think the non-linear timeline actually does something really smart that makes it feel more organic in a way. And it's that when you think about it, I mean, Wade Wilson was never, you know, the most stable of people, and, you know, he was a mercenary, and he had, you know, his thoughts about how to deal with people who were evil and stuff. He had no qualms about hurting anybody, like, or you know, killing people in the most gruesome ways, even before he was Deadpool. But you actually, when you sit down and think about it, you realize that while he was funny, he had his sense of humor, he was sarcastic, he was, you know, blabbering about all over the place. He doesn't actually start doing the fourth wall breakage until he's actually Deadpool, and that it might make it a bit more comic-y in a way, because that's the way Deadpool is. But it also makes a lot of sense, because if you ask me in one adjective to describe Deadpool, I would use the word insane, because honestly, Deadpool is certifiable. Okay, he's not just a funny, sarcastic character. I'm quite sure he would be diagnosed, with schizophrenia or something. Like, he is certifiably insane. And that, I like that the whole non-linear thing makes it feel like it's a product of his torture, really. Because he doesn't start, like, hearing voices and seeing people that aren't there, quote unquote, until he comes out of his ordeal as in the Weapon X program, until after he starts becoming Deadpool. Like, I think, linearly speaking, the first time we actually hear him say something to the audience would be when he's, like, washing his suit, the white suit. He's washing it, and then that's where the whole, hey, I'm breaking the fourth wall thing happens. You realize, even though it's subtle, even though it may seem like he hasn't changed a lot, after his torture, Deadpool has literally become unhinged. And that, I mean, it's both awesome in the sense that he becomes this amazing comic book character that we all love, but at the same time, it does make you think, man, that's a harsh change. It's like something happened in this guy's brain that just turned things around, and he's never gonna be the same. And it kind of makes you think, doesn't it? So there's that both there's that duality to it that I really enjoy, and I find that both really true to the character, because yes, Deadpool is supposed to be that freaking insane, and also really smart, because I've been hearing a lot of stuff about how the torture didn't change him because he didn't lose his sense of humor. And yes, he didn't lose his sense of humor, but it did change him a lot. I mean, it freaking drove him insane. That's as much as I can say. And I really like that it's not something you necessarily realize while you're watching the movie, but when you walk out and you think about it and you realize, yeah, all the fourth wall breakage that he was doing, and all the meta references and stuff like that, all the throwaways to Hollywood and to the studio and blah blah blah, he does all that as Deadpool. He doesn't do it as Wade. And that's because there's a huge difference between Deadpool and Wade. Deadpool went through something unbelievably horrifying that altered his physiology and his, mental well-being. Basically, they drove him insane, and that's why he kind of broke out of the mold to the point that he is now talking to the audience and realizing that he's in a movie. It's one of those things where you realize how smart actually the script is. It's not something I saw during the movie, but when I walked out, I was like, that makes total sense. That was the breaking point, really. It really was. And I really love it. I think the script was not just hilarious, it was also very smart, very true to the comics, and there's nothing else I can ask for from it. Seriously, I have no complaints about this movie whatsoever. It's an amazing movie. Ryan Reynolds knocked it out of the park, and this entire team just knocked it out of the park, and I cannot wait. I mean, I'm almost kind of dreading the bajillions of dollars this thing is going to make in the box office, because I keep thinking that maybe if they give him more money for the next one, it's not going to be as good. I hope I'm wrong, but I definitely want to see another one, and I think they've made something great with this. I mean, for a movie that is only like 50 million in a budget, on a budget or something. It's like, I didn't even notice. I think there was like one scene maybe where Colossus came out like a little bit too standing out from the background, but like one scene. I blinked and it was gone, and I can't believe they managed to do everything they did with such a small budget. I mean, you could tell that they knew where to put the money though, because listen, I'm not an action kind of girl. I usually tend to like mentally check out when the action scenes come out. I don't like action. I don't care for it. It's just like, oh, there's dudes fighting, great. The action in this movie was actually beautiful to watch. Okay, that last fight, just both of them, the one with Colossus and Angel Dust, and then Ajax and Deadpool, both of them were so beautiful to watch. The choreography was astounding. The way Tim Miller filmed it was incredible. Like, I usually don't like slow-mo, but in this way it was done, it totally works. It just enhances the action, and you can tell that they knew, okay, we're not going to have huge explosions, we're not going to have like aliens attacking or whatever. This is just going to be good old-fashioned people fighting and beating each other up, and it's going to be awesome. And they totally pulled it off. It was amazing. I mean, if you have this movie where I can even appreciate the action, then you know it's a good movie, because I hate the action usually. And it just, I don't even know, I could gush about this thing for hours and hours. It was an incredible movie. I feel I have to watch it again, because I was laughing so hard that I kind of missed half the jokes, and I still loved it because it made me laugh, because it had heart. It really was a love story deep down. It's a story of what drives a human. First, it's love, then it's a desire to like get better, and then it's freaking revenge, because I'm not letting that bastard do that to me, and that's what it's going to be. And I loved just the way they wrapped everything up. The cast was amazing. I mean, for a bunch of supposed no names, this cast was top notch, and I really hope that they're all going to like explode from this point on, because they totally deserved it. This movie is fantastic. Everybody needs to go see it. Like I said, the humor might not be for everyone, but I'm actually really surprised that so many people have loved it, because hey, maybe I'm the one who's wrong, and I'm the one who thinks that type of humor isn't universal, and apparently it is. I think everybody needs to at least go see it. And you know, if you're a fan of comic movies, if you're a fan of X-Men, if you're a fan of Deadpool, definitely you will not be disappointed. This movie delivers on everything they promised, and then some. I mean, I was expecting the humor. I wasn't expecting the heart. I wasn't expecting the quality that I got. It looked so amazing and felt so intimate at the same time, while, you know, making penis jokes and sex montages. It somehow manages to still be really, really freaking quality. So that's about as much as I'm gonna say, because I could go on for hours, and I don't want this review to be like 7,000 hours long. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Just go watch this movie. Do yourself a favor and go watch this movie if you haven't, because you're going to love it. Love it, love it, love it. And I'm sure I will give it 5 stars, because I just really freaking enjoyed it. It was so great. As usual, be sure to visit our website at thegeekypub.com. We have reviews for other movies and also for TV shows, books, games. We have a ton of stuff in there, so be sure to visit, browse around. You'll find something you like. And if you guys want to be notified whenever we upload a new review, then you want to subscribe to our YouTube channel, because that's usually where they go up first. Most of the time they're up on the website before they're up. Most of the time they're up on YouTube before they're up on the website. So if you subscribe, you will be notified as soon as possible whenever we upload anything new. That's it from me now. I'll see you guys in my next video. Go watch Deadpool.